They mocked her voice, silenced her light, and called her proud, until the day her truth became a movement. Orioma had always known the weight of other people's voices. Born in the clay-rich village of Umugo, where tradition walked with pride and opinions sat like kings in the market square, she learned early that being different was a dangerous thing. Her mother, Mama Isioma, was a seamstress who stitched her strength into fabric. Her father, Okonkwo, a quiet palm wine tapper, believed in silence more than argument. Yet, Orioma spoke, not in the way of noise, but in thoughts and questions that made elders shift in their wooden stools. Her eyes held a depth that made grown men uncomfortable, and her refusal to be just one more woven mat in the room of conformity marked her as strange. They called her proud. They called her too bold. They said she thought herself better than others. But Orioma only wanted space to be herself. In school, her voice brought both admiration and ridicule. Her literature teacher, Mr. Ease, once called her a rare mind in a common classroom. That comment traveled faster than gossip at the stream. Her classmates, especially Adiz and Chigo, began calling her Queen Dictionary. "You to know book," Adiz would sneer. "One day we go see whether book go give you husband." Still, Orioma excelled. She read Achebe and Chimamanda like sacred texts. She wrote poetry in the margins of her notebooks. Her words, once silenced by the sharp looks of elders, now spilled boldly in essays and debates. But each award she won was followed by whispers. Too forward, too ambitious. Who she thinks she be? She smiled through it. But inside, she began to wonder if they were right. After secondary school, Orioma moved to Lagos. The city, with its chaotic brilliance and smoky promise, welcomed her like a whirlwind. She got into the University of Lagos, studying mass communication. Here, she found others like her, minds that thrived on questions, voices unafraid to tremble with conviction. Yet, Lagos had its own mirrors. Social media became a gallery of comparison. Her accent was mocked in one online discussion. A boy she liked once said, "You 2 days serious. Relax, small na." She started to dim. She laughed more softly. She spoke less in lectures. She began dressing like others, copying their slang, curbing her ideas to avoid the weight of ridicule. She forgot her own voice. During her final year, she went home for the Christmas holidays. Yimu hadn't changed much. The air was thick with pounded yam, palm oil, and suspicion. "You don't greet properly anymore," her uncle said. "You should be thinking of marriage," her aunt added. One afternoon, she walked to the stream where she once sat to write her early poems. An old woman was there, Mama Njadika, the one who people said had visions. Mama Njadika said, looking at her, "Your tongue be quiet, but your spirit still speaks. They try cover but fire no day die, because breeze blow." Orioma looked at her, stunned. "You want to know who you be?" the woman asked. "Remove everybody voice from your head. What remains? That one, not your worth." It struck like thunder in her chest. Back in Lagos, Orioma began rebuilding herself. She unfollowed pages that made her feel small. She started a blog called Unquiet Fire. It was raw, fearless, and honest. At first, readers were few. Then, one article went viral. "Your value isn't a mirror." Comments flooded in. "I needed this. You just told my story." Emails came. She was invited to speak. On panels, on radio, then at TDX Lagos. She walked on stage, not with trembling knees but rooted steps. She wore her natural hair, her Yumu accent, her fierce eyes. She spoke not to impress. She spoke to express. And people listened. Months after the TEDx talk, Orioma was offered a publishing deal. Her book, Quiet Valor, became a bestseller across Nigerian universities and book festivals. Invitations poured in from Ghana, Kenya, and even the UK. One day, she returned to Yumu again, this time not for Christmas, but for a women's leadership forum her NGO was sponsoring. The village square was filled with girls in white and blue uniforms, eyes wide with wonder. She spoke of dreams, of strength, of worth. Afterward, a girl with trembling hands approached her. "My name is Neka," she said. They say I talk too much, but when you speak, I feel like I'm allowed to exist. Orioma hugged her tightly. You are allowed. Loudly. Not everyone was proud. An anonymous article emerged online. She's not all that. Her accent is still local. She's too feminist. She's too opinionated. She's riding on attention. Old insecurities stirred. For a week, she spiraled. She began rewriting captions, canceling interviews, doubting her direction. Then Mama and Jadika's words returned like a quiet storm. Remove everybody's voice from your head. What remains? She opened her journal. Wrote, even if the world forgets who I am, I must never forget. She published a new article, The Price of Orioma. It went beyond viral. It became a movement. 2 years later, Orioma's foundation had sponsored the education of 300 girls across Nigeria. She mentored young writers, hosted a podcast called Your Worth, Your Voice. She was interviewed by CNN Africa. Her parents, once silent, now sat proudly in their Yumya home watching her TV appearances, tears glistening in their eyes. Yet, she remained grounded. She returned often to the stream, to Mama and Jadika, to her younger self. One day, she was asked at a book conference, "What's your proudest moment?" She replied, "The day I stopped apologizing for being me." Orioma received hundreds of letters every month, from girls in Zaria, mothers in ABA, teachers in Isayan. One stood out. I used to hide my drawings because my family said art is useless. Now, I paint for exhibitions in Johannesburg. Your voice woke mine. Another read. Because of you, I left an abusive relationship. I remembered I was not what he said I was. Orioma cried, not because of sadness, but because her journey, once filled with doubts and ridicule, was now a lantern for others. 10 years after starting Unquiet Fire, Orioma returned to Yumyu again. This time, the town held a festival in her honor. The village square wore banners with her name. Dancers reenacted parts of her story. Young girls performed poetry she inspired. She stood, not as the girl they once misunderstood, but as the woman they now honored. In her speech, she said, "Your value isn't determined by how loud the world applauds or how bitterly it criticizes. Your worth is in your heartbeat, your truth, your light. Do not ask permission to shine." The applause was thunderous. She looked to the back of the crowd and saw Mama and Jadika, smiling. Orioma smiled back, and for the first time, fully, truly, and without apology, she knew her worth. Moral of the story: your value isn't defined by others' opinions. Know your worth. True self-worth comes from within, not from the applause or criticism of the world. Embrace your voice, live your truth, and shine without apology. That brings us to the end of the story. What lesson did you take from it? Share your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you'll know whenever we release a new video. Also, feel free to share this with someone who might enjoy it. Thank you so much.